Hi, I'm Zoe Lister-Jones.
And I'm Olivia Wilde.
And this is Ask Each Other Anything. Anything.
Anything. Anything.
Capital A. Anything.
Yes.
This is going to be a 7-hour
settle in
session. So buckle up. Yeah. So How It Ends is about the last day on Earth. It takes place on the last day on Earth. And I'm wondering if you have thought of what you would do on the last day on Earth, because I feel like we've all been sort of like making a list just in case.
One thing that has become very clear to me is that we should be living every day truly like it's our last. It's like saying everything to everyone that you've ever wanted to say without fear, like really letting people know how much you love them. I think for me, the last day on Earth would be a process, much like yours in the movie, of going around and connecting with people and making sure that everything that you've needed to say has been said. Just getting rid of whatever baggage we all carry around because we think we need to.
And as you're sort of like releasing baggage, you are eating like cake and grilled cheese and, like fried chicken. I feel like I want to be like also doing that and like also just like a balls out dance party with a buffet in the center. So you're basically like dancing while eating. And there might be puking in there because that's a nice release too. You know?
So Roman. One of the most poignant parts of the film for me is the idea of what you would say to your younger self or what your younger self might say to you. That felt like the message of the film. Like if you could forgive your younger self and if you could realize that your younger self just is rooting for you, how does that alter your perspective on yourself? So I'm curious what you would say to your younger Zoe.
In a lot of ways, like I've spent time being mad at my younger self because she's an obstacle for me. Like she is where I'm stuck, right? Like that's the battle is the traumas that occurred for me at the age that sort of arrested my emotional development that I'm still hanging on to. And I am like, can you go? Like, can you go away? Like, can I be a grown up now?
Yes. Yes.
And tell me how you're feeling so that we can, have a conversation about it, which is essentially what the movie is. It is a conversation with my character's younger self. And yes, and like, I love you, because I think that is what all of our inner children needed to hear.
Okay, so in thinking of like how this film really captures that very intense moment at the beginning of lockdown, when it comes to quarantine hair, what was your quarantine self-care experience and how did you choose to incorporate it into the film?
I appreciate this question. It's hard hitting in the best way. My quarantine hair was longer. I've since like gotten a haircut, but at the time it was like the longest it's been in many years. And I think everyone was sort of in that state of, just like self-care defeat.
Yes.
Which many of us are still in. Yes. But I think the film, I hope it is remembered as a film that is a time capsule of quarantine hair, in addition to other things. But that I think is important. And I will say, even the indiest of the indies, I feel like generally has like a hair and makeup person. So true. And this was a real experience for all of us to be like, you on your own. You're going to show up ready. You're not even going to have a mirror to look in. Like, you really had to be cool with it.
It's so true. Another really profound topic in the film, while also being really hilarious and making us all feel seen, was the idea of being able to be alone and the idea of accepting that. I'm curious about that experience for you and what it brought up for you to play that character and to think about that in your own life.
I think the idea of being alone and what so many of us have really had to confront in the last century that we've been in quarantine is like what does aloneness mean? Like, and can you find companionship in your solitude, like with yourself, as new agey as that sounds? Because you can also feel alone with other people just as easily. And sometimes that's even more alienating. Being alone is not the same as aloneness, you know, and that there's something to embrace in sitting with yourself, in sitting with the discomfort of just being yourself, which so many of us have had to do in different ways in quarantine. Yeah, it's such a journey. It's such a deep and terrifying journey.
If we can remember how lucky we are to make something, if we can remember like what a gift it is to be able to gather and how exciting it is, then we will never be jaded again in our creative process.
Yeah. Can we go back to the hair question? I'm just kidding.